We're car guys, man. I got a place here in town. We build hot rods, we build motorcycles, we restore vehicles, things like that.
So you looking to buy something, maybe, perhaps?
I'm always shopping them. You don't mind if we wander around?
Not at all. My concept is su casa.
The best reality TV shows usually have the most interesting characters. The Real Housewives of Atlanta had Nene Leakes, Love and Hip Hop, New York had Cardi B, the WWE has, well, literally everyone in the WWE, and Counting Cars has Horny Mike.
I'm Horny Mike. I sell horns, try to put horns in everything here at Count Kustoms, but I also do a lot of their airbrushing, custom building, custom displays, anything to try to make the count look good.
Counting Cars is one of the most popular automobile reality shows in the world right now, and it's currently been on for about 10 seasons, so it's on a pretty great run. Interestingly, the reality show itself is a spin-off of Pawn Wars and is completely filmed in Las Vegas. The show just follows the entire business of Count Kustoms, which is an automobile restoration and customization company owned and operated by Danny Koker, a man who previously appeared as a recurring expert on Pawn Stars. The main character in the show, as you'd expect, is Danny Koker himself, and most of the show is based on Koker trying to find and restore classic automobiles, but Koker isn't alone. At the beginning of every episode, the show starts with Koker giving a short speech where he says that he and his all-star team are always on the prowl for classic cars to either fix, flip, or keep. One of the most interesting members in his all-star cast is Horny Mike, an extremely interesting fellow with a thing for horns. While it's easy for people who have never seen the show to flinch at the name Horny Mike, people who have seen it will have no problems with this since it doesn't mean what it sounds like. Horny Mike's notorious name was given to him because he loves to put horns on every single thing he can. Horny Mike is certainly one of the most popular characters on the show, and for good reason too. He's arguably the best airbrush painter on the show, and he has a surprising depth to his character that a lot of people have fallen in love with. Aside from that, the story of his troubled childhood is something that a lot of people can relate to. So, Horny Mike is relatable, funny, charismatic, has an interesting name, and is good at what he does. Why wouldn't people like him? It's precisely because people like him so much that many of them have started asking what happened to him. Ordinarily, they wouldn't ask those questions, but many fans of Horny Mike and Counting Cars have been pushed to the wall due to Horny Mike's limited appearances in the 9th season of the show. So, what happened to Horny Mike? Why didn't he have a lot of appearances in the 9th season of Counting Cars? The answer to that question is quite simple. The 9th season of Counting Cars was filmed in 2020, which meant that showrunners had to deal with working during the pandemic. Since reality TV shows usually need a huge cast for each episode, it was impossible to shoot a long 9th season. Instead, History, the network that the show was on, decided to make the season shorter than normal. Of course, a shorter season meant that a lot of characters wouldn't have a lot of screen time, so nothing happened to him during that time. He just didn't get a lot of screen time. And if we're to take his recent social media posts on Instagram and Twitter as truth, nothing is happening with him now either. In fact, it seems like Horny Mike is having a pretty swell time. In late 2021, he bought a house and moved out from his allegedly annoying homeowner association property. However, he's also had some bad news in his life too. In May 2021, for example, he was run off the road by an unknown driver on his way home, and he's fortunately physically okay. He was in his Horny Beast truck during the accident. Thankfully, the damage to the truck wasn't too severe. Now that we know about what's going on with Horny Mike right now, let's talk about Horny Mike himself. What makes him so popular amongst fans of Counting Cars? Why do people care so much about him? Well, first things first, Horny Mike's real name isn't Horny Mike. That would be an awful government name. His real name is Mike Henry, and he grew up in Michigan. While Mike doesn't say too much about his family back home in Michigan, we do know a few things about him. For example, after graduating from high school, he tried to set up a car and motorcycle repair shop. Sadly, he failed at that venture and the shop closed down a few months after it opened. After that failure, he started living in a van because he'd run out of cash. After a while of living in a van, he decided that it would be better to look for greener pastures elsewhere, and that's how he found himself in Las Vegas, where he moved about for a bit. After moving around for a while, he got an independent job as a t-shirt painter and also helped people personalize their licenses. Of course, this wasn't his dream job, but it was very far from what he'd expected when he arrived in Las Vegas. but he took the job and managed to do it well because it paid his bills, and it was a better alternative than going into a world of crime. He also learned a lot from that job too. While it doesn't tally with what he does today, that job taught him to put his creative mind to pleasing people, which is ultimately what he does right now. At this point in Horny Mike's history, the trail dries up again. We don't know when he joined Count Kustoms, but we know that the company had been existing way before the first Counting Cars episode was ever shot. What we do know is that at some point, Horny Mike joined Count Kustoms and he excelled. He was able to combine his love for cars and his amazing creativity to create works of art that appeal to everyone. According to Mike, his job at Count Kustoms is a dream job for him. While he often complains about the job on screen, he said that there's no job he'd rather be doing. He also says another reason why he loves the job is that it gives him the freedom to do other businesses with his free time, and has allowed him to connect with even more people. He's put this connection to good use too, as he now has an online shop where he sells everything from trademark horn accessories for helmets to t-shirts, caps, bob heads, and even popcorn and dried meat, and jerky. You can also book him on a roadshow with this so-called Horny Nation, which consists of him appearing in car-related events and expositions. Let's just say that Horny Mike has a really comfortable job. And why wouldn't he? His charisma was almost second to none. He's great at what he does and has always found a way to distinguish himself. For one, his eagerness to plant horns on everything he owns, including his cars, led to people calling him Horny Mike and also made him one of the most memorable acts of counting cars. Even though Mike admits that his horny ways, that is, his love for horns, doesn't always fit with the grand plan of Danny Koker, the owner of Count Kustoms, both men still manage to get along reasonably well. Perhaps the reason why both men get along so well is that Mike is simply astounding at his job, and we aren't saying this because the fans of the show believe it. We are saying it because even his co-workers know that he's got some monster skills, and is probably the best airbrush painter in Las Vegas. While a lot of emphasis isn't usually placed on Mike's efforts on vehicles, one special episode in the 4th season of the show took a long and hard look at Mike's paint jobs. We've got to say that episode showed us just how talented Mike and his co-worker Ryan Evans are. The episode showed us some simply astounding paint jobs, but out of all of them, the one paint job that stood out as an outstanding example of master level craftsmanship was a very patriotic Corvette they restored and repainted in commemoration of the Second Amendment. The Corvette was simply a work of art, and it's difficult to imagine that anyone else could have done a better job. The car looked undoubtedly American, but not in an arrogant way that you could easily dismiss, but in a way that made you fall in love with the idea of America. Aside from the Second Amendment Corvette, another example of the simply ridiculous talent of Horny Mike is the Horn Smart Car. When the Horn Smart Car first got to Count Kustoms, it was a basic little electric automobile that certainly didn't look great. By the time Mike was done with the car, it looked like a different thing entirely. It was now a green monster with terrific illustrations and its trademark horns on top. According to Mike, the car was a great way to promote counting cars, and big was the right. The vehicle certainly attracted many stars in Las Vegas and went on to appear in many expositions. This shows the level of dedication that Horny Mike has for the Counting Cars show. All in all, we're going to say that Horny Mike is having the time of his life, and we can't wait to see him in the next season of Counting Cars.